Good afternoon. Scott Campbell, Christian pastor in French Quebec. Hope the lighting will work. It's a dark day and I don't have any specific film or video lighting, so I hope there's enough. I just wanted to wrap up what I've been thinking about, chatting about regarding Christmas. We talked about kind of the meaning, the origin of Christmas. Also had a video on humility, God's humility that He manifests, shows us through the Christmas story by His arrival on Earth and His lowering of Himself as really as far down as He can go. And I wanted to mention another aspect today that's really hit me, and that it came to me when I was kind of preparing for Christmas, and I had gotten out an older DVD that we have. It's called The Nativity. It was put out maybe 8, 10 years ago on the birth of Christ. Well, obviously on the pregnancy of Mary, the pregnancy of Elizabeth, and the whole story. So, and it was just a thought that came to me as I watched Mary and Joseph in the stable holding this new baby. And the phrase that came to mind was, or first the word that came to mind was the word vulnerability. Uh, God made himself so vulnerable. Here's this little baby in Mary's arms, in the arms of a very imperfect parent. Joseph, a very imperfect legal father, guardian of Jesus. Um, but God made himself vulnerable. And what struck me the most about that aspect is so often we can, and it's normal for us, I think, but we can think of the power of God. We can think as we look at creation, maybe even the beauty of God as we look at creation. Um, but we might think as well of how He forgives us and encourages us, how He's always with us. But this aspect of vulnerability, what really struck me was vulnerability has to exist in a relationship for it to be a true relationship. So when God decides, okay, I'm going to reconnect to my creation that has walked away from me, I'm going to reconnect. He does so by making himself totally vulnerable to that creation, to his creatures, to humans, starting with Joseph and Mary. And he just opens himself up. And it strikes me that love, true love, has to be vulnerable. It has to open itself. And this, of course, followed Jesus through his whole life. He was very, very vulnerable to people, to circumstances, to situations. He didn't close himself off. He didn't hide, once again, kind of hide away in the palace. The king of heaven, right, comes down to earth. But he doesn't hide in a palace. He lives simply, humbly, very closely. Humility and vulnerability are very closely related. And then, of course, at the very end of his life, he couldn't be any more vulnerable as he is stripped naked. That is the understanding. That is the way Romans crucified people. They didn't leave them with a little loincloth, or no, they totally exposed them. They tried to totally and utterly humiliate them. Those victims who were, or those who deserved it, those who were hung on the cross. So here, Jesus totally vulnerable to us, and what he desires is the same in return, right? Again, if I'm going to love my wife, I need to be vulnerable to her. I need to let her in deeply into my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams, my actions, and vice versa. She needs to do the same. That's the only way there can be a true relationship. Otherwise, without vulnerability between God and man, between people, if there's no vulnerability, we aren't really relating to each other. We are relating to a caricature of ourselves. So if I don't show the depths of my dreams, my pain, my joys, I'm hiding. I'm hiding behind a mask. I'm a type of hypocrite, and I'm showing just a facade, a caricature of myself. So this vulnerability on the part of Jesus and what he shows us is a key element of a person who wants to be like Jesus. That vulnerability is critical, not hiding, not presenting a front, not trying to only present maybe my positive points, but showing who I truly am. And of course, it doesn't mean that we should stay in that place. If as we reveal the depths of who we are, we see, whoa, this needs to change, fine. But the key is God accepts us right there where we are. He meets us there. He knew it all the time, right? We can't hide that from him. And if the other person, if the people that we're around can accept us and call us to press on and to grow, uh, that's just a huge, huge piece of our Christian growth. So that's what I wanted to share. And that idea of God as being vulnerable to us, really opening himself up truly and desiring us to do the same toward him and toward others. So, Happy New Year.